Hello, everybody. Dr. Jesse Jackson III here, best-selling author and facilitator of the Don't Kick 'Em Out book and training series. Welcome. We like to check in every couple of days and give some content and some guidance on critical issues that we see in our travels around the nation, particularly in this very unique period of history where we are still in a battle, so to speak, with health-related problems nation and worldwide. We're coming back to school again. So basically, this is the second year where the same things continue to come back to the table. The thing that I learned last year, and being one of the leaders with guidance through the pandemic, was understanding the importance of a leader who has a vision and a very clear concept of what I'm doing with my organization. That's where this has to be. In a world of uncertainty, a leader, not the leadership team. So I'm talking to superintendents and principals today who often heavily rely on their team. They rely on the people who are close to them, which is all well and fine. But like I always am very clear, there's only one person's name come up when we Google this district. And there's only one person's name that comes up when we Google your school. So it becomes where the leader has to have understanding. They have to know what's going on. And that's what I have just continued to implore my folks and encourage my folks, giving them the best guidance, understanding how to build their leadership capacity. When we look at the next 2 years, it's pretty straightforward for us, but we've asked everybody to decide what their challenges are, not looking around the nation and say this is everybody's challenge. That's not true. That is not true. Everybody's is being presented with the same thing, but there are people much further ahead than others on critical matters. I know that personally from what I'm seeing, right? So you're talking about health and safety is on the table, employee morale, race management, leadership growth and development, trauma management, employee retention, enrollment is a big deal because a lot of people, enrollment is down. And so I said in 2010 that the day of the virtual school is coming. Well, no, Jackson. Well, no. I mean, if people haven't figured it out by now, pretty much I get paid to be right. I don't do opinions. This is not sports or music. This is a business that is highly, one, predictable, but two, you gotta have the eyes for this. See, I'm very sensitive to what I'm seeing. I'm in the field, and I trust what I'm seeing, and the trends are very obvious to me. So enrollment is going to be a big deal for every company. But notice this, a lot of schools I work with, enrollment up in a pandemic, right? Enrollment up. Charter schools I have, enrollment up in a pandemic. What is that telling you? It's some things they're aware of, some things they're just going out and getting done. Student attendance, student behavior, distance learning, learning loss, and trust issues. So when I present these 13s, these are all things that I have a very high mastery content of, meaning I know them very well. I know them very, very well, and I know how to get movement in these areas. Okay, so when you talk about learning loss, one of the things that I specialized in my 20 plus years and didn't even know it, I didn't know I was doing it, was understanding how to get marginal students or students that have huge deficits to close their own gap. There's a very specific process to doing that. This stuff is not theory. It just amazes me. You know what causes a lot of districts and parishes in the South, Louisiana, that causes the slowdown is that people do not have confidence in their own knowledge. They believe that they have to, well, let's see what this person's doing. Let's see what they did in this district. Let's see what they did down there. What that tells me is you don't have confidence in yourself and your own process. I have been very clear today that the day of national best practices and trying to do what somebody else did in your district will prove to be the undoing and slow you down more than anything. In my travels, I know this very clearly. And I'm talking about in the same state or even region, you can't compare any district to another one. You might theoretically have the same demographic, but man, my God, culture is a dictating factor, right? So what are you talking about? Culture is what we believe, how we behave. So if you're trying to do a practice, but you don't have your culture down, what you're gonna find out is you're gonna miss the mark. A lot of people believe they have race problems, but they have culture problems. What does this mean? 3 pillars of culture. Number 1, how we treat each other. 2, how we treat the kids. 3, how we let the kids treat us. And so when I ask people to score their culture out on a scale of 1 to 10, I mean, what the things I've seen the last 2 months is just like when everybody gives their score and you put those scores together, you see how far we are off internally. So always remember this, school leader, the answer is not on the outside. The answer is always internal. The answer is not on the outside. Now, what's the purpose of an outside guy like me who becomes a partner? See, so I'm not an invited speaker anymore, right? And I have always thought it was very detestable. Don't ever call me a speaker. If you call me a speaker, we're not going to be friends because I don't respect that. And I don't come to the table as a speaker. I'm a partner and an advisor to your process. You are who you partner with. If you bringing in speakers, that's telling me you don't understand this culture. Culture's a process, man. Man, it takes 2-3 years to get a culture cleansed out. And a lot of folks don't understand it. What they do is they get over here on this list and they say, well, Dr. Jackson, we're having a behavior problem. Well, Dr. Jackson, we are having an attendance problem. Well, Dr. Jackson, we have a trauma problem. And so the thing that I like for us to understand is that every problem has a root. So if you irresponsibly treat symptoms, school leader, if your mind is trained at symptoms, then you will find yourself basically running through the wheel, because what you're never going to do is actually solve your problem. So for this year, and I'll leave it at this, a lot of people are making this year, 2021, an academic year. Now, while that is noble and it sounds like it makes a lot of sense in theory and on paper, folks, be aware, if your culture's broken, you're about to have a really, really bad year because your focus, you think it's this, but it's this. So what I'm saying is if you fix the culture, academics will fall in line. If you fix the culture, the learning loss gap and the problems we're having in the classroom actually will fix themselves. We have found and proved it. I'm over 1,400 campuses over this journey. And I'm telling you, I've intensified this over the last 3 years. We've been able to prove schools that have behavior problems, it checks out across the board. Schools that have behavior problems, typically the adults don't get along and jive. You're typically not going to get it. So what is the culture rating? 10 is where we want to be. 0, somebody needs to be fired. 5, hot and cold. Anything between 5 and 8 is the range. And what we have seen at schools that have issues with behavior, we have seen that culture score on that number 1, how the adults treat each other, does not go over 7. And you're really stretching it. You're almost lying if you say you got a 7. So to notice this, honesty with self is the most important thing. So folks, I want to train superintendents, principals, and management teams how to assess problems properly. People think they're assessing the problem and what they're doing, and they say it all the time. Well, we got to look at our data. That data is not giving you the full scope of what you need. If you're sitting there with an F and your kids are not reading, that's one story. All right. If you have high behavior referrals, that's one story. Right. And that'll get you referred to state government saying, hey, you're getting sanctions for this. There's another story. And I'll leave you with this one. This is one of the great revelations that we had. We were working with an organization early in the spring, and we brought in central office and we brought in the principals separately. That is my common practice. that we've started in 2021. So if I've been the organization and you say, hey, we're doing a transformation, we're doing a culture shift, my process is always we start at the top, but I like to separate the top. I really do. I like to separate central office from the principals. There's two different lenses, and 100% of every time I've done it, we've gotten two different views. And so one situation we had, and once again, you're talking about, I've done this probably 35 times in 4 months. So been very active with it, and it checks out with everybody. You have one organization whose central office seen the how we treat each other score very, very high. Brought the principals in the next day, and the principals, how we treat each other score was low. So somebody's either lying or don't see it. I would almost say that what happens is we're living through our lens. We're not trained to live through others' lenses. And that's what gets a lot of the stagnation in terms of how we address problems. If you address culture, friends, I can guarantee you the results you're going to get. You're going to actually start moving some of these things off the list. Notice this, people that had better cultures had better health and safety practices because they didn't have the staff fighting them, right? People that have good cultures do not have morale issues. The morale issues take care of themselves. People that have good culture, the issue of race gets neutralized. Race is always a factor because if it's a factor to anyone in your equation, it's a factor, and race is very relevant. But good culture actually addresses the issue of race. So this is why our race training has been so beneficial and rated so high. We go at it differently. We're not coming at it. And guys, and the thing that we need to understand is last year we came up with a human logical solution to dealing with race. We tried to do the smart way, the university way. Let's do this this training we got, and then everybody's doing bias, and everybody's bringing all this stuff to the table. And then a year after we had a chance to fix race relations, a year after we had that chance to fix it, CNN comes out a few weeks ago and says black-white relations are at an all-time low. So what that means was the educated, smart people came up with a logical solution to a age-old problem, and we failed again. So now we're worse off than we were before you tried to fix it. But you know what they follow? The data. There's more to the data than the data. There's more to it. If you can't get that, and that's hard for you to digest, there's some people, their brain, they're academicians, and all they can process is logic. When you look at this list, tell me what on this list is logical. It's really not. This is trauma. These lists are traumatic. Pandemic is traumatic. Race comes from trauma. People that have morale issues, they're dealing with their own emotions, traumatic things they got going on in their life. Leadership growth and development is being stagnant because a lot of leaders don't have confidence in themselves. So you're telling me we're about to try to push these initiatives, but we do not address the way folks view themselves and their condition of their mind when we're trying to get them to go work. It absolutely makes zero sense, and we should stop doing it. I'm talking to leaders that have something to lose, superintendents, principals. I do this for you. And anybody that knows me, no matter how my schedule is loaded, I'm talking about loaded on top of loaded, we're blessed. Why? We get folks results. And results is the name of the game. But even with what I'm dealing with, schedule-wise, anytime somebody calls me and we know they're sincere, we know they want help, and they say, come on, Jackson, we need to get out this ditch, I make 100% effort to get them in. Anybody, you go ask anybody, I'm talking about who the partnerships have bloomed with. They'll tell you. If you call, you're sincere, he'll always get you in and figure out a way to help you out because we're here for you. And so this is very serious to us. This is not a game. This is not trying to be smart. This is not selling you something. Results sell themselves. And right now I'm living on a reputation, and I take it very seriously. My name is very important to me, but more important than any of that, the results I get from my clients and where we are able to move them is something that means the world to us. It's our investment in you. When you believe in us and you partner with us and you get those results, you become principal of the year, teacher of the year, get your blue ribbon, get yourself out of the URI or AD list, get yourself off the state list. Man, that's the victory of a lifetime for us. That's why we're in it. And so, folks, if you know we can help you, please call today, reach out today by email. I'm just looking forward to working with you soon. Be well.